Balrog is one of the most iconic and mysterious creatures in The Lord of the Rings, a being so shrouded in darkness and power that its mere presence instills fear in even the bravest of hearts. Despite only making a brief appearance in J.R.R. Tolkien's epic saga, it left an indelible mark on both the characters within the story and readers alike. This creature was no ordinary monster. It was a being capable of matching the might of one of Middle-earth's greatest and most formidable heroes, Gandalf the Grey. The encounter between Gandalf and the Balrog stands as one of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring moments in the entire trilogy, raising a profound question. How powerful was the Balrog really? It's not just that it managed to bring down Gandalf, it's that it forced him to unleash his full strength, showing us that this was a creature of immense and terrifying capability. What made the Balrog such a force to be reckoned with, and why did it possess power so great that even Gandalf had to sacrifice himself to overcome it? By delving deep into Tolkien's writings, both in The Lord of the Rings and beyond, we can begin to unravel the mystery of the Balrog's power and understand why it still captivates the imagination of fans to this day. Welcome to In Deep Geek, your one-stop channel for diving deep into the lore, mysteries and wonders of your favorite fantasy worlds. My name is Robert, and I'm thrilled to have you here as we explore the vast, intricate landscapes of The Lord of the Rings, A Song of Ice and Fire, The Witcher, and more. Here on this channel, we peel back the layers of these incredible stories, venturing beyond the surface to discover the hidden depths and lesser-known details that make these worlds so enchanting. If you're a fan of epic tales filled with heroism, dark magic, and ancient history, you're in the right place. Today, we embark on a journey into one of the most formidable and enigmatic beings in Tolkien's universe, the Balrog of Moria, also known as Durin's bane. Together, we'll trace its origins, its role in Middle-earth's history, and ultimately, the staggering power it wielded in its fateful clash with Gandalf. So grab your swords, ready your spells, and let's step into the shadowy depths of Moria to uncover the true might of the Balrog. Before we dive into the details of the Balrog's power, it's essential to clarify which Balrog we're focusing on. In Tolkien's expansive legendarium, Balrogs were once numerous, fearsome warriors of darkness, but our story centers on one in particular, the Balrog, known as Durin's bane. This creature earned its name after slaying King Durin 6-6 and driving the dwarves out of their ancestral home in Khazad-dûm, which later became known as Moria. This is the very same Balrog that confronted Gandalf in the Fellowship of the Ring, an encounter that forever etched its name into the annals of Middle-earth's history. While there were other Balrogs in Tolkien's world, and some played significant roles in the ancient wars of the First Age, the one we know as Durin's bane stands out as the most iconic due to its dramatic clash with Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm. This specific Balrog, with its fiery whip and aura of darkness, not only embodies the terror and might of its kind, but also serves as a living relic of a bygone era when creatures of incredible power walked the earth. By honing in on this particular Balrog, we can better understand the raw strength and ferocity that it brought to bear, even in an age where such beings were thought to be little more than myths and legends. Balrogs are among the most fascinating and terrifying beings in Tolkien's legendarium. And to fully appreciate the power of Durin's bane, we first need to understand what Balrogs are and where they come from. In the hierarchy of Middle-earth's beings, Balrogs belong to a category known as the Maiar. The Maiar were originally angelic spirits, divine beings created by Eru Ilúvatar, the supreme deity, to serve the Valar, the greater powers that helped shape the world. This means that in terms of their origins, Balrogs share the same divine ancestry as beings like Gandalf, Saruman, and even Sauron himself. They were part of the same cosmic order, imbued with abilities far beyond those of ordinary mortals. However, their journey from celestial beings to creatures of darkness began with their corruption by Morgoth, the first and most powerful Dark Lord of Middle-earth. Morgoth, originally known as Melkor, was one of the valor, and he was the mightiest among them. He harbored a deep lust for power and domination, seeking to bend all of creation to his will. To achieve this, he gathered followers from among the ranks of the Maiar, seducing them with promises of power and glory. The Balrogs were some of the most potent of these fallen spirits. They abandoned their original purpose of serving the light and instead became Morgoth's most fearsome servants, transformed into beings of flame and shadow. They took on a terrifying form, wielding whips of fire and enveloping themselves in darkness, embodying the very essence of fear and destruction. In their corrupted state, they became agents of chaos and devastation, unleashing terror upon Middle-earth during the wars of the First Age. What makes the Balrogs even more terrifying is that they were not just mindless beasts or monsters. They retained a level of intelligence and cunning, making them strategic weapons in Morgoth's arsenal. They fought with immense skill and ferocity, and their power was such that even the mightiest of elves and men struggled to stand against them. Their fire could burn through armor and flesh, and their shadows could smother even the brightest light. This duality of fire and shadow, light and darkness, made them formidable opponents, embodying a corruption that went beyond mere physical strength. In a way, the Balrogs were like twisted reflections of the noble beings they once were, retaining a vestige of their original power but now bent to the service of evil. They were the ultimate fallen angels of Middle-earth, beings that chose darkness over light, and their very presence signaled death and destruction to any who stood in their path. Tolkien's depiction of Balrogs didn't remain static over the years. It evolved significantly as he refined and expanded his world building. Early drafts of Tolkien's mythology, particularly in his unpublished notes and writings that eventually became the Silmarillion, suggest that there were once vast armies of Balrogs, numbering in the hundreds or even thousands. In these early versions, Balrogs appeared to be more like shock troops, terrifying and powerful, but not unique or exceedingly rare. They fought in great battles alongside Morgoth, serving as the heavy hitters of his forces and overwhelming his enemies through sheer force and numbers. This portrayal made them incredibly dangerous, but at the same time somewhat less extraordinary, since they were depicted as one part of a much larger army of darkness. However, as Tolkien continued to develop his world and the deeper lore of Middle-earth, he began to see the Balrogs in a different light. He decided to reduce their numbers drastically, and this shift changed the entire perception of what Balrogs represented. Instead of being one of many, they became a rare and almost mythical presence, with only 3 to 7 Balrogs believed to have survived by the end of Tolkien's Legendarium. This reduction in numbers had a profound effect on their role within the story. They went from being one of many soldiers in Morgoth's legions to nearly singular beings of immense power, each one representing a significant threat in its own right. This change also heightened their individual importance and aura of terror, transforming them into more than just minions. They became symbols of Morgoth's might and the lingering presence of ancient evil in the world. One of the most interesting aspects of this evolution is how it increased the sense of awe and fear that Balrogs inspired. By making them rarer, Tolkien amplified their power and significance, suggesting that each surviving Balrog carried with it a portion of the ancient darkness and strength of Morgoth himself. This also meant that any encounter with a Balrog was no longer just a battle with a fearsome creature. It was a brush with one of the last vestiges of an age-old evil that had been thought to be long gone. Their status as relics of the First Age gave them an almost mythical quality, as if they were living embodiments of a time when the world was more raw, dangerous, and untamed. It added to their mystery and danger, making them beings that could no longer be dismissed as mere monsters. The process by which Tolkien refined the concept of Balrogs over time underscores his meticulous attention to detail and his desire to create a rich, layered mythology. It also serves to illustrate how the Balrog that Gandalf faced was not just a random monster or an obstacle to be overcome. It was one of the most powerful, and enduring remnants of a bygone age of darkness. By the time we reach the events of The Lord of the Rings, the Balrog of Moria, Durin's bane, stands as a testament to the incredible power and terror that Morgoth's forces once wielded, serving as a reminder of how even the mightiest evils can linger long after their original masters have been defeated. This evolution from numerous formidable warriors to rare near-legendary figures elevated the Balrogs in general, and Durin's bane in particular, to an entirely different level of threat and significance within Tolkien's world. It's this process of refinement that makes the Balrog not just a powerful enemy, but one of the most unforgettable and iconic entities in all of Middle-earth's history. To truly grasp the power and significance of Durin's bane, it's essential to understand the role and might of another, perhaps the most infamous Balrog of all, Gothmog, the Lord of the Balrogs. In the First Age, Gothmog was one of Morgoth's chief lieutenants and the most powerful of his servants after Sauron. Unlike other Balrogs, Gothmog wasn't merely a mindless beast or a tool of destruction. He was a highly intelligent and ruthless warlord who commanded the forces of Morgoth with a terrifying efficiency. As the Lord of the Balrogs, he held a position of immense authority within Morgoth's army, and his deeds during the wars of the First Age were legendary, leaving an indelible mark on Middle-earth's history. Gothmog's most infamous act was his role in the death of Feanor, one of the greatest and most influential elves to ever exist. Feanor was the creator of the Silmarils, the three perfect jewels that would become the catalyst for much of the strife and warfare of the First Age. In the Battle Under the Stars, or Dagor Nu in Gileath, Feanor led an assault against Morgoth's fortress of Angband, burning with a desire for revenge. However, it was Gothmog who confronted him on the battlefield, and despite Feanor's incredible power and skill, the Lord of the Balrogs proved to be more than his match. Along with a host of other Balrogs, Gothmog mortally wounded Feanor, effectively ending the career of one of the greatest elven leaders. This act alone demonstrated not only Gothmog's immense strength, but also the sheer power of the Balrogs as a whole, showing that they could bring down even the most legendary of heroes. Gothmog's accomplishments didn't end there. He later played a pivotal role in the Nirnaeth Arnoediad, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, one of the most catastrophic and tragic battles of the First Age. It was during this battle that Gothmog killed another key figure, Fingon, the High King of the Noldor. Fingon was an exceptionally powerful warrior, considered one of the greatest elven kings, yet he stood no chance against the might of Gothmog. In a brutal and decisive moment, Gothmog slew him with his great black axe, sending a wave of despair through the ranks of the elven armies. These events showcase the Balrog's ability to stand toe-to-toe with even the mightiest of Middle-earth's inhabitants, emphasizing their status as beings of incredible power and destruction. Gothmog's presence was not just a force on the battlefield. It represented the very essence of fire, fury, and darkness that defined Morgoth's reign. His actions, combined with his strategic command, made him one of the most formidable foes that the free peoples of Middle-earth ever faced. Understanding Gothmog's power and influence gives us a clear sense of what Balrogs, in general, were capable of at their height, and this is crucial when considering Durin's bane, who was a direct product of this legacy of terror and destruction. Durin's bane, the Balrog that Gandalf fought in the depths of Moria, is one of the last surviving remnants of the First Age's great evils. After the defeat of Morgoth at the end of the First Age, most Balrogs were destroyed, but a few managed to flee and hide themselves in the deep places of the earth, far from the light of the sun. Durin's bane was one such creature, retreating into the darkness beneath the misty mountains, where it lay dormant for thousands of years. It is likely that during this time, it grew in bitterness and malice, waiting for the day it would be awakened once more. This moment came during the Third Age, when the dwarves of Khazad-dûm, the greatest and most prosperous of their realms, delved too deeply in their search for mithril, a precious and incredibly strong metal. In their relentless mining, they inadvertently disturbed the Balrog, awakening it from its long slumber. The creature emerged with all the fury and terror of a being that had once served the greatest Dark Lord in Middle-earth. It killed King Durin VI, earning the name Durin's Bane, and subsequently slew his son, Nine the First, when he attempted to reclaim the kingdom. The death of Durin VI was an event of monumental significance. It marked the beginning of the end for Khazad-dûm as the heart of dwarven civilization. With the Balrog now ruling the depths, the dwarves were forced to flee, abandoning their great city and leaving it to be consumed by darkness. The exile of the dwarves from Moria was a turning point in Middle-earth's history, and it cemented the Balrog's status as a being of immense and terrible power. For centuries, the creature remained in the depths, a malevolent shadow that haunted the abandoned halls of Khazad-dûm. Over time, Moria's existence became little more than a legend, a place of fear and whispers where no one dared to tread. The Balrog's presence alone was enough to keep the most hardened warriors, adventurers, and even entire armies from attempting to reclaim the dwarven kingdom. The fact that a single creature could hold such dominion over one of the greatest strongholds of Middle-earth speaks volumes about its strength and the terror it inspired. What's fascinating about Durin's Bane is that it was not actively seeking to conquer or expand its domain. It simply existed as a creature of fire and shadow, an embodiment of an ancient evil that had survived from a forgotten age. This sense of timelessness, the idea that such a powerful being could exist for thousands of years without fading or diminishing, adds to its aura of invincibility and menace. The Balrog became a living reminder of Morgoth's ancient reign of terror, a dark echo of an age when such beings were plentiful and their power knew no bounds. The awakening of Durin's Bane wasn't just a catastrophe for the dwarves. It served as a reminder to all the free peoples of Middle-earth that even though Morgoth was gone, his shadow still lingered, and ancient evils still lurked in the depths. This Balrog, seemingly forgotten and buried by the sands of time, emerged to reclaim its status as one of the most dangerous and powerful creatures to walk the world. It is this history, this legacy of darkness, and its role in the downfall of an entire kingdom that set the stage for its confrontation with Gandalf and the Fellowship of the Ring centuries later. When the Fellowship of the Ring ventured into Moria, they had already faced numerous challenges, but nothing could have prepared them for the terror that awaited them in the depths of Khazad-dûm. As they navigated the dark, ancient halls of this once great dwarven kingdom, they were struck by the eerie silence and the sense of desolation that surrounded them. The air itself seemed heavy with an unspoken dread, as though the stones remembered the horrors that had driven the dwarves from their home. However, it wasn't until they reached the chamber of Mzabal that they encountered the full extent of the darkness that had taken root in Moria. Here, they found the last records of the dwarves' desperate stand against an unknown foe, and it became clear that whatever had driven the dwarves out was no mere orc or goblin. It was something far more ancient and powerful. The moment the Balrog began to stir, the atmosphere changed dramatically. The Fellowship, despite being composed of some of the bravest and most capable individuals in Middle-earth, felt a deep instinctual fear take hold of them. It was as if the very air had turned against them, thick with an ancient malevolence that defied comprehension. When the Balrog finally revealed itself, stepping out of the darkness like a living nightmare, even the bravest among them recoiled. Legolas, the elf who had lived through many battles, stood frozen in terror, and Aragorn, the rightful king of Gondor, showed signs of fear. The creature was more than just a beast. It was a force of pure destruction, a relic of a bygone age when the world was a far more dangerous place. The Balrog's appearance was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. It was a towering figure, wreathed in shadow and flame, with eyes that burned like embers in the darkness. It radiated an intense heat, and its every movement seemed to distort the air around it. as if reality itself struggled to contain its presence. It carried a whip of flame that cracked and sparked with every step, a weapon capable of reducing flesh and bone to ash in an instant. But more than its physical appearance, it was the sense of absolute, undeniable power that emanated from the Balrog that truly shook the Fellowship to their core. It was a power that seemed to belong to another age, an era when beings of unimaginable strength roamed freely across the land. When Gandalf confronted the Balrog on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, it was clear that this would be no ordinary fight. Both the Balrog and Gandalf were beings of the same order, the Maiar, and this encounter was not just a clash of weapons, but a battle of wills, strength, and ancient magic. The confrontation between Gandalf and the Balrog is one of the most epic and dramatic moments in all of The Lord of the Rings. As the Fellowship fled across the narrow stone bridge, Gandalf stood alone, facing the creature that had brought death and ruin to Moria. With his staff raised and his sword, Glamdring, gleaming in the dim light, Gandalf confronted this ancient enemy, refusing to let it pass. His voice echoed through the hall as he proclaimed, "You cannot pass," a declaration that seemed to carry with it the weight of centuries of defiance against the forces of darkness. The ensuing battle was nothing short of monumental. As Gandalf and the Balrog clashed, it became clear that this was not a contest that would be won easily by either side. The Balrog wielded its whip of flame with terrifying skill, striking out with such force that the very air seemed to crackle with heat. Gandalf countered with his own power, using his staff and sword to parry and deflect the Balrog's attacks, each movement charged with a power that belied his frail appearance. This was no mere skirmish. It was a battle between two beings of immense power, both of whom had lived through ages of history and conflict. As the bridge beneath them began to crumble, Gandalf struck one final blow, shattering the stone and sending the Balrog plunging into the abyss. However, even as it fell, the Balrog's whip lashed out, entangling Gandalf and dragging him down into the darkness. What followed was a battle that raged for 10 long days and nights, as Gandalf and the Balrog fought their way through the depths of Moria and up to the peak of Zirak-Zigil. This struggle was beyond anything that mortal eyes could comprehend, a clash of powers so immense that it shook the very foundations of the mountain. Gandalf later described this battle as a confrontation with fire and darkness itself, with the Balrog taking on different forms as they fought, shifting between shadow and flame. At times, they fought in the utter blackness of Moria's deepest caverns, at other times amidst the roaring winds and icy storms of the mountaintop. In the end, Gandalf emerged victorious, but the toll was immense. The sheer effort and power required to defeat such a foe were so great that Gandalf's physical body was destroyed, and he passed beyond the circles of the world, only to be sent back by the Valar to complete his mission. The power of the Balrog becomes even more evident when we compare it to the other beings of Middle-earth. Durin's bane was not just powerful, it was one of the most powerful entities to still walk the world during the Third Age. As a corrupted Maiar, it existed on a level that few others could match. The fact that it could fight Gandalf to a standstill and force him to expend every ounce of his power speaks volumes about its strength. The Balrog was a being that could have easily crushed any of the mortal heroes of Middle-earth, and it's likely that even the combined might of the Fellowship would have been no match for it without Gandalf's intervention. In terms of raw strength, the Balrog was on par with the greatest beings in Middle-earth, including Sauron and Saruman. While it didn't possess the cunning or the desire for domination that Sauron did, its elemental power was a match for any of the great villains of Middle-earth. The Balrog was an entity that represented pure destruction, a being that could not be reasoned with or persuaded. It was a creature of fire and shadow, bound only to the will of its ancient master, Morgoth. It had no aspirations of conquest or control, it simply existed as a force of ruin, an embodiment of the chaos and darkness that once threatened to engulf the world. This raw, unbridled power is what made it so terrifying, and it's why even Gandalf, one of the greatest heroes of Middle-earth, had to give his life to stop it. Durin's bane stands as a testament to the lingering presence of ancient evil in Tolkien's world, a reminder that even though the great wars of the past had ended, the shadows of that era still lingered in the hidden corners of Middle-earth. It was a relic of an age when gods walked the earth, a being whose power transcended the mortal realm, and whose mere presence could bring even the mightiest heroes to their knees. Its defeat at Gandalf's hands wasn't just a victory for the Fellowship, it was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the darkest and most powerful forces could be overcome. In the end, the Balrog's power lay not just in its physical strength or its mastery of flame and shadow, but in the fear and awe it inspired, proving that even in a world filled with wonders and horrors, it stood as one of the most formidable and unforgettable beings ever to walk Middle-earth.